Hello, welcome to Mainframe Insights. My name is Peter Wassel, and I run the mainframe DevOps business here at Broadcom. We're joined today by Joe Schuler from MasterCard. Hello, Joe.
Hi, Peter.
And Venkat from Broadcom.
Hey, Peter.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Venkat Balabhadrapatruni. I'm a distinguished engineer responsible for the architecture of our DevOps products, and I'm a partner in crime with Peter to make things happen, the magic happen in the DevOps world.
Awesome. Venkat, my name is Joe Schuler. I've been with MasterCard 28 years. I currently am the program owner for the Mainframe and HP Nonstop platforms. Interesting tidbit, I started my career with MasterCard as a senior Unix engineer, then owned the distributed platform for about 13 years. So I've obviously touched a number of different bases in that 28-year career, but happy to be here and happy to talk mainframe.
Well, thank you for joining us. We're glad to have you. So we're going to have a conversation on mainframe app dev, and we're going to derive some of the insights from a survey that Broadcom commissioned that was run by Forrester Consulting. It's called the Mainframe Application Developer Study. Before we get into the insights, I'll tell you a little bit about the motivations for conducting the survey. In order to ensure the long-term health and vitality of mainframe applications, it's really critical to understand the people who are responsible for them. Now, the voice of the global developer has been widely reported, but when it comes to the voice of the mainframe developer, it's often drowned out. This study highlights a number of perspectives, challenges, and opportunities that these mainframe developers perceive. We had over 800 people participate in the survey, ZOS application developers across a number of different geographies, a number of different organizations, and at a variety of ages, so a really good cross-section. Now, the survey results provided us some very unique insights around today's mainframe developer experience. It also provided us a bit of a roadmap in terms of what it means to increase mainframe developer productivity. So what we'll do here today is dive into a couple of those areas and get your point of view as it relates to MasterCard. Sound good?
Yeah, great.
Awesome. So the mainframe developer survey results highlighted that mainframe developers really only spend about 16% of their time coding. Now, if you contrast that with other developers on other platforms, those developers spend around 30 to 40% of their time coding. When you look at productivity inhibitors for mainframe application development, they relate to things like outdated tools or interruptions in context switching or lack of autonomy. And in fact, a number of the respondents cited the lack of adoption of Agile or DevOps best practices. When it comes to MasterCard, what is your perspective on these inhibitors, and what might you all be doing to overcome them?
I think the first thing, just to provide some context, so the MasterCard mainframe is really a critical infrastructure component. We drive a significant percentage of our business and consequently revenue through the mainframe. As such, regardless of our long-term plans, the mainframe is critical every day. So we treat it as such. One of those aspects is keeping our developers up to speed and abreast of current technology and keeping our tool sets fairly as up to date as we can. Prior to even embarking on any kind of mainframe modernization efforts, we as an organization had already adopted Agile practices, shifted many of our developers from waterfall to Agile, leverage modern development practices as we've moved forward. So I think the critical component is to treat critical infrastructure as a critical ongoing endeavor, regardless of what your migration or modernization plans look like.
Was there a point at which you made that transition from traditional waterfall-based processes, legacy tools, to the position that you're describing now? What was that transition like?
Yeah, I mean, change is never easy And certainly when you're taking people on a journey from something they've done for 20, 30 years, and you're asking them to adopt a different skill set and a different practice and a different methodology, it's huge. But I think we made that decision as a company to improve our productivity overall and improve our output. So I suppose we started the journey like 7 years ago-ish to move into more of an agile practice. And different teams moved at different times. It wasn't a big bang. But I think, we continue to see the benefits of the iterative development, and not just in the distributed, but also in the mainframe space. The evolution of pipelines on all of our platforms. And I think that's probably one thing that I would say is really critical to all mainframe shops is to always keep your eyes forward on all of your endeavors, especially considering the mainframe 50 years old, has been going away for 50 years. I think it's critical to treat it as an ongoing entity and embrace change and embrace new technologies in the mainframe, just as you would any other platform, whether it's cloud or distributed or whatever platform of the month you're dealing with.
We do find that a large number of our clients who have started their journey are successful in modernizing their tools and their processes. Take the approach that you're advocating, or that you're prescribing.
Sure.
To, where, in a very risk-managed way, tools coexist with existing tools, processes coexist with existing processes, and you could get a much better buy-in from your teams by advocating that sort of motion. Does that resonate?
So, I have multiple applications, multiple programs, multiple products on the mainframe at MasterCard. And teams move at different paces. They have different peak seasons. They have different drivers. So we have to maintain legacy technology, legacy tools for a window of time and bridge that into new technology. So you can't, it's not, again, it wasn't a big bang. It won't ever be a big bang because different people move at different times and are driven by different incidents and efforts. So some teams are focused on, keeping the lights on for some window of time. Some teams are interjecting new development, new features, new functionality into their code. And when those items are released is often driven by our customer base. So it's how we have to work.
And I think, the key point that you're making about giving teams the flexibility and the choice, I think it'll help the cultural shift and the changes that an organization has to go through as part of this journey. And that's consistent with, as Peter was saying, something that we have been hearing a lot from other clients as well. So glad to hear that. Continuing with the theme of the survey results, one of the things that we learned from the survey is the speed of delivery when it comes to the mainframe application related changes. The survey indicated that very few teams develop and release changes, monthly, maybe. Most of them are looking at a 6-month time frame. And when you look at that speed of delivery and the current digital age requirements and how things are moving, and combined with the fact that more and more developers are taking longer time to comprehend what an application is. It's taking more time for them to make a code change or decide where to make the code change. Technologies like platform engineering, which gives developers the self-service capability, or generative AI, which can be a tool in the toolbox to help understand these legacy applications, is one thing that we are learning as the key aspects to embrace. Going back to your point about keep your eyes open and look forward. So where is MasterCard in that journey of the adoption of new tools?
I like Peter's questions better because they're easier to unpack. You only asked about 12 different questions in that series.
Take your time.
Yeah, let me kind of unpack this one at a time. Generative AI is a wonderful tool and a huge opportunity, especially in the mainframe space, because you can delve into code that you may or may not truly understand exactly what the mindset of the developer was, because they wrote the code more than 20 or 30 years ago. So I think that's been a help. We've unpacked assembler code on the mainframe using AI type solutions. Which kind of lends itself to the next question that you asked, which is, so once, how do you keep moving with mainframe code? I would challenge some of what came out in the survey in as much as I think it's also a mainframe mindset. You do IPLs once a month. You do major releases every other year. And the operating system and the infrastructure in general in the distributed space moves at a bit of a faster pace. That being said, we have embraced new tools, pipelines, GitHub, different technologies bridging into mainframe capabilities that allow us to be very quick with development as needed. I think the other thing that I'd submit is that the mainframe for MasterCard runs critical infrastructure, critical applications. And we don't want to make significant changes on an incredibly frequent basis. I think that I would submit that it's not necessarily the tooling. I think the tooling you have to keep updated, and you have to bring those distributed technologies and capabilities into the mainframe space at the same time frame that you bring them into the distributed space. But I think that you still have to make good business decisions around when you want to introduce features and functionalities and just improve your overall situation. Now, I will say that my team has embraced infrastructure as code. And we've done a significant amount of automation around things like IPLs and region swaps. And that has allowed us to gain significant time, real clock time, in doing these type of business resilience functionalities. So I think embracing pipelines, embracing infrastructure as code, embracing automation, I think are all very necessary in the mainframe space and have real payoff. If teams are taking a more staid and conservative approach, I certainly understand it, but I will tell you that there's real benefit in the long term to embracing these new technologies.
Yeah, I would say the automation of manual tasks and test case automation are the two big ones when it comes to improving productivity.
Yeah. I didn't even touch on test case automation.
Right.
Being able to use load generation capabilities to understand exactly, what something's going to look like, because, the financial reality is you can't just build a production like mainframe to do all your app dev testing. But you can get real close with a lot of the current generation of tools.
Let's go back to talking about culture a little bit more. If you look into the survey results, you find that more than 50% of the 800 plus respondents, they basically said they have experience on non-mainframe platforms, whether that be experience with the platform itself or with the tools and the processes that typically go with them. And in fact, a lot of the clients that we have been working with ourselves, probably 90% of them have a plan or a strategy or are already implementing changes to tool sets that are based on technologies like VS Code and GitHub. Now, when you look at the mix of people that are working on mainframe applications at MasterCard, would you say that your changes and your forward-looking vision is being driven by the people joining the app dev teams or from the top down? Where is that coming from a cultural point of view?
So I think culturally, you have to understand where people are coming from. And very few universities are teaching mainframe technology. So they're going to, necessarily understand distributed code writing. However, we have seen a resurgence in mainframe development. especially in Europe, where a lot of people are taking courses and learning even how to maintain COBOL code. At MasterCard, we have very real reasons around data sovereignty, where we have to have a smaller footprint to put our applications on soil. And consequently, it lends itself to writing distributed code. However, what we are seeing is that as we move to larger population centers, it's nice to have that technology and the ability to containerize and leverage platforms like the mainframe as we move forward. It's good code writing to have the most portable, flexible solution. So I think that from a cultural perspective, certainly from the top down, our executive team has got a great vision and pushing forth the idea that we can do this multi-rail capability without necessarily having a mainframe in every location. But I think that it's certainly a two-handed clap where that vision is being embraced by the development teams and taken forward, whether it's in the mainframe space. Many of the mainframe code developers are actually switch hitting. They're doing mainframe code development as well as distributed code development. So I think again, when you really understand what the tribal knowledge, so to speak, around the payments industry is really where we see the huge benefit in coders. And I think they ultimately have the flexibility to write codes for whatever platform is available.
I think that switch-hitting nature, I think, underscores the need for having a standard set of tooling across the enterprise so that they don't have to learn and relearn things as they keep switching.
100%, and especially when you go to the actual methodology. I mean, it would be nearly impossible. I can't imagine if you were trying to do waterfall development one day and then switching to Agile, and you really couldn't do it. In fact, so much so that waterfall obviously lends itself to more infrastructure type implementations. But we still have embraced Agile in our space in the actual operations and platform support. And we've seen great benefit. You work on what's important when it's important, and you're able to deliver those iterative wins. So those are all great things for MasterCard and for my team.
Oh, that's great. So Joe, Venkat, thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed our conversation. We'll see you next time on Mainframe Insights.